Yeah, so we're live now, it looks like.
Oh.
So, good Friday afternoon. Not Good Friday, of course, but good afternoon on a Friday. And it's Matt from Walks Preston, and I have my guests today. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We'll go around the room, and I'd like you to, as you're watching, to say hello, put a comment in the Facebook if you can. And we're going to be talking footwear. So, Colin, say hello.
Hi, my name is Colin McLean. I'm coach for the Distance Challenge for those that live around Derbyshire, represent Walks, Derwent and Dales. We've got about 4 or 5 people coming down to Purbeck to do the Distance Challenge this year, and looking forward to helping them with their training.
Super. Welcome, Colin. Thank you. Ron?
Ron from Walks Thames Valley, based in South Buckinghamshire. Just a big fan of endurance events, really. So coming to Purbeck again for this will be my 5th time. Love the event, and also love shoes as well.
Excellent.
So that.
Thank you for joining us. Welcome, Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy. I run Nordic Walk in Watford. We don't have anyone specifically in the challenge events this year, but we have done it previously and normally get a good crowd of us coming down to Purbeck. So looking forward to gathering some interest and hopefully get some few people training and interested in it.
Excellent. Again, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Ashley.
Oh, hi, I'm Ashley. I'm Walks Wessex, which is based in Wiltshire. We're coming down to Purbeck for the 5th time as well. We've got about 15 people coming. No one specifically for the challenge at the moment, but I am working on them because we have got a lot of people who have done challenges before around this area. So, yeah, ready to help anyone who wants to do the challenge.
So we're trying with all of these live sessions and kind of content that we're putting out on social media to politely twist the arms of our members and anyone else who watches our social media channels who may not yet be within our groups, to kind of see the things that are going on within the Walks and the Nordic Walking UK network, and to kind of just regularly put out good value, good content, and that generate that level of interest and awareness in everything that goes on in our national network, because there is a lot that goes on, and still today I find people who even yesterday someone came on a walk for the first time and he'd never even heard of us. And so, you know, as much as we do our good effort with our social media work, etc., going out knocking on people's doors, people still don't know about all the good things that go on. And you guys who are sort of heavily involved, you know how much it can change people's lives just getting involved with our groups and our walks and the social sort of aspect of physical exercise. So today we are talking about footwear. We've had a couple of conversations this last week or so, and kind of footwear is one of these big kind of questions that's raised by a lot of the viewers, people who are now participating or thinking of participating in either the 16 miler or the 27 miler. And yeah, I'm no expert on shoes. I've walked a lot of miles. I've done the 27 miler at Purbeck previously, and my personal experience of that was one of inexperience. So I had, they were more like trail running shoes, and they were very light and very comfortable, but I was able to fasten the laces. And when I put them on for the first time I did that event, I tied the lace. I thought, right, I don't want these falling off. So I pulled the laces tight, and I'd already lubricated my feet with the Stride Out oil. I had a couple of pairs of socks on. I thought, smashing, that's great. I'll be able to survive this. I'd never done that kind of distance before. And then at the end of the event, because of what I learned with hindsight, so this is all about kind of getting to that point of our experience and your experience within this group of 5 now, sharing that and helping people make those better decisions. So after the event, I realized that the constant pounding of the feet led to the swelling of my feet. And I also found that I have one foot, the kind of around the top of the forefoot, it's wider on one side than it is on the other side. So I had almost like compression injuries on the top of my foot because of the way that the foot had swelled upwards into the tight laces on my shoes, and it was worse on one side than the other, it wasn't a blister, it was just like a very painful puffy patch of skin. And I also had something on my hand as well from the metal buckle on the glove strap. So this whole physical exertion can lead to changes in our body, and it's good to kind of know tips and tricks from our regulars and those who are into longer distance walks particularly. But Colin, I'll come to you first. What's your kind of experience of footwear and any sort of problems you might have experienced? You've done longer distance stuff, so.
Yeah, I have done a lot of endurance events, running and walking. And one of the things I've learned from that process is the importance of selecting the right shoe wear. So I brought along some examples just to sort of talk around how my thinking has gone. So this is, your standard sort of mountain walking boot. If you look at this type of boot, and the weight of it is 800 grams. Okay, this boot is 800 grams. And every mile we walk is 2,000 steps. Now, I did the 16 mile and thought this would be fine, but actually it's really stiff. And I suffered from shins being sore at the end of the 16 mile event. So I moved to this type of shoe, which is a lightweight fell running shoe. So that was 800 grams. This one's 350 grams. So it's half the weight. It gives me the ankle support. This is from a brand called Innovate. Very excellent shoe. It's got Gore-Tex liner, so it keeps it dry and nice and protection around the ankle. Importantly, buying half a size bigger than I would normally have in a shoe so as to allow my foot room to expand. And also, I have a kind of funny way of tying the laces. Rather than tying them closed at the top ring, I actually tie it closed at the second ring down from the top, which means that as you pull it in, you pull the top one and it fits nicely around the ankle. And then you get a much better feel. But if I'm confident I don't need the ankle support and it's a good surface, then I'll move to this type of shoe. So we've gone from 800 to 350, and these ones are less than 300 grams. Again, a fell shoe, good, nicely spread grip, good for walking in very fast, lots of flexibility in there, and again half a size bigger. And then my last pair of shoes to show you is I moved on to is like when it's really muddy, then I use these ones, and these are 240 grams. So again, very, very light, but a different type of sole against the running shoe. You can see the difference where you've got less of these sort of nodules or studs to let the mud out, and are very good. And I've walked 10, 12 miles on these, 15 miles on those, and then I've just come back from Wales where I was walking in the mountains with these and the snow and all the rest of it. It was superb. So I think that my sort of learning out of this game is keep it light and think about the conditions that you're actually walking in, and have a variety of shoes to cope with different conditions. And above all, practice and select what you think is going to be the best for yourself in terms of lightness and capability. But usually always go half a size above. Even though it feels uncomfortable at the beginning, your feet moves and expands and fills the space, and rather than have your toes squashed in. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, great. That's a lot of great shares there. Flexible kind of sole shoes and lightweight and a little bit bigger, I think were kind of the key take homes there. So thank you for sharing that. Ron, what are your thoughts on footwear?
Up until I started Nordic walking 6-7 years ago, I mean, I was actually born in the Lake District and I've been going back there regularly. So I was always using walking boots for any of the walking in the fells. And the brand I always used was Meindl, Meindl, which is a German brand. When I started Nordic walking, I thought, well, I'll just wear walking shoes. So I went and bought a pair of Meindl walking shoes, Meindl Respond. So that was like 7 years ago. And these, they are still going strong. These aren't the ones, the old tatty Respond from 7 years old are downstairs. But this is what I've always worn on challenge events with a pair of Bridgestyle socks, and they've worked fine. I've had no issues with feet or legs. But round about just before the last Purbeck, to September 2019, around about the August time, for some reason, there were two reasons. One was I always had a broken ankle in my left leg, and whenever I started walking, up until my knee, from my foot to my knee, always ached. And I've been to see sports physios and massage therapists, and people have just basically said, look, your ankle's fused incorrectly, you're going to always have this issue. And I also read an article on sport walking about the difference between walking shoes and walking endurance events in walking shoes and walking with a lighter shoe that Colin has mentioned. So I thought if I moved to a more cushioned shoe, I wouldn't get the issue in my leg. So I bought these, which is a brand called Hoka, American Hawaiian shoe, extremely light for the trail, and they are absolutely beautiful to wear. They're like they're just wearing a sock, as though you're walking with a sock, and they're very heavily cushioned. And the other reason I switched from a walking shoe to a cushioned trail shoe is I thought I maybe had to get up the pace or up the speed and walk faster. Unfortunately, they didn't cure the issue in my left leg, but I found, because most of my training walks are done on maybe say a 15k training walk, for example, is done on an asphalt service, and only say 2 kilometers of that will be on a service that is rough terrain. These work just fine, so I thought I could save my Respond shoes and wear something like the Hoka. The other brand that I've when I was into trail running before I started Nordic walking, I would wear the Innovate, which basically the Innovate shoe. The other brand I wear is this, which is by On Running. This is an even lighter shoe, and you'll see the cushion in here. They've got a different type of sole. Very, very flexible. The issue with my left leg didn't go away. It didn't really matter what shoe I wore, it remained. And I've just found a solution to that by changing to another sports therapist who's done some work on the whole of my left-hand side of my left leg, and has now cured that issue. So I spent a lot of money on shoes when I didn't really need to. But I prefer the lighter shoe, and the dilemma I have now is in the terrain as Purbeck has been. Do I stick to the Meindl Respond walking shoe, or do I switch to a lighter trail shoe? And time will tell. I've had no issues with blisters or corns or anything like that, but I did come across when I was out walking yesterday, I did come across a lady when I was having a cup of coffee, was complaining about her foot. And she said, oh, my heel always aches when I'm walking. And she showed me this Asics shoe, and it was literally rotten. And where the heel comes up at the back, it just rotted away, and it was rubbing the back of her heel, but she didn't like wearing socks. I get a new pair of shoes and wear a decent pair of socks. So there are people out there who maybe need some advice or something, but that's just my experience.
Sure. Well, Excellent. I'm glad you got your legs sorted anyway. That's
So am I. Always the
costly
first
journey
5
through.
kilometres of Purbeck always used to be hell with soreness, and then it would go away as I got into the rhythm of it.
Right. Oh, well, thank you for sharing that and showing the different kinds of the brands of shoes. Very interesting. Tracy, you're a...
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna say I think it's actually really difficult to recommend shoes for people, and we often, it's a question we always get asked. We've all got different shaped feet at the end of the day, so what suits me is not necessarily gonna suit someone else. So I would say it's important to go and get a shoe or a boot that is properly fitted for your foot. So go to a good shop to get a good pair of shoes. And it's also, I think, a good point to also recommend, I can't emphasize this enough, train in what you are going to wear on the day of the event, okay? Because what is comfortable at 3 miles and 6 miles and 10 miles, at 27, it's probably not going to be. So I can't emphasize that enough. Don't go to the event with a pair of shoes that are a couple of weeks old. Make sure you've worn them and how they feel, how they're going to work on the terrain that we've got in Purbeck. And also socks as well. Don't forget your socks. You can ruin a really good pair of shoes with rubbish socks. So make sure that you spend out on a good pair of socks that are cushioned in the right places, the heels and the toes, breathable across the top. Same with your shoes. You want breathable shoes, so you're not getting that heat and that moisture, which is what creates your blisters. So yes, if I do have to give a kind of preference in terms of a shoe, I've always worn Salomon shoes, which I really like, and a lot of my team actually use them, so I know they are a popular choice. But I'm actually just trying the Innovates at the moment that Colin recommended as well, and I'm really happy with those two. So if I had to name brands, then those are the two that I would recommend. But it's really important to find what works for you. So whatever kit you buy, wear it, use it, get that mileage in, and just make sure you're comfortable after you've got some good mileage behind you.
Smashing. Thank you. Yeah, excellent tips there. And again, we're kind of in week 2, and there's 20 weeks of this whole training before it turns into September, and it will come in a flash, but we have that time to do our training, try and even change shoes, and as the weeks go on, we'll get those longer walks in where we can start kind of bedding our feet into those shoes, and kind of, again, with the socks, we'll do another session on another week about socks more specifically. But someone had suggested that, and I can't remember who, but sorry about that, they'd suggested on the longer distance walks, changing the socks every about 12 kilometers. So they're all things to consider.
Yeah.
Great. Ashley, what are your thoughts on footwear?
Well, I'm gonna agree a lot with what Tracy said. I like Solomon, but that's a personal choice for me. Lots of my walkers wear Merrill, Mindel, Innovate. So I would completely concur with Tracy that go and find the shoes that suit you. Go to Cotswold Outdoors. Go to a running shop sometimes if you are going to be doing the speedy stuff. Go and have your gait looked at. I've got wide feet at the front and very narrow at the back, which is something why Solomon fits me. And I've tried lots of different other shoes, but I always go back to Solomon because that's what people recommend. So one thing I would say about Solomons, I really like these laces, the laces that do this. So they're very easy to loosen off. These ones are a walking shoe, again, very light, like Colin's ones. I actually got these as a comp pair from Solomon, so as a testing thing. So that was quite, because I wear a lot of them. So these are, I think they're called Outline. They're actually a walking shoe, but I use trail shoes as well. What else would I say? I would definitely concur with changing your socks. When I did the Race to Stones, which is 31 kilometers. I think I changed my socks 3 times. When I had my breaks, I took my socks off and walked around in the grass, because I think it's actually quite good to kind of almost, how we mobilize our feet at the beginning of a walk. I think it's really important to do that sort of thing mid-walk, if you've got that chance to have a little break, is to kind of do some mobilization exercises. What's another tip? I would say I had one walker who trained so much in a really good pair of shoes that she'd done 500 miles by the time she came to do her 31 miles, and her shoes actually fell apart en route. So I would say make sure you don't overtrain in one pair of shoes. That's another tip I would give you. Yeah, but just change and carry some blister plasters just in case for those sort of hot spots. Deal with the hot spots really quickly. I know Tracy's been on some of these long distance walks. They've always got stands where you can have your feet looked at mid walk. Just deal with the hot spots really quickly. So if you get that kind of where it is rubbing, put something on it now. Get the Compeed out, put that on there as soon as possible. So
great, yeah, super.
Yeah, one other thought that came in just listening to the tips is some of the terrain down at Purbeck on the hills kind of rolls a bit, and there's sort of rabbit holes, and one of the things that is worth considering when you're training is how do your feet feel and your legs respond in different terrains. So the advantage of like one that's got an ankle support is that you just feel more comfortable with dealing with imperfections or rolling ground. If you're going to go away with a shoe, like this without the ankle support, then you really need to have done quite a bit of training in it and getting used to the fact that your foot is rolling. You've got more likelihood of twisting an ankle or rolling over on a shoe like that, unless you've developed strength in your ankle and got used to how it feels. So it's another consideration and worth just trying an ordinary trail shoe versus a trail shoe or fell shoe with ankle support, and see the difference and deciding what your preference is. It's just a thought.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the whole aspect of that practice and training, which as coaches will be trying to help our regular members if they're participating, and trying to think into taking our walkers onto certain terrains that replicate to at least a certain degree what it might be like down at Purbeck. I remember walking down the coastal sort of, as you rise up out of Swanage, then you're on that sort of coastal path. They're kind of quite narrow areas, and it can be quite hard, and you kind of slip down the side a little bit, not off the edge, of course, don't want to frighten anyone off, but you need to be sure with your footing, and that's also you need to be a little bit familiar with how you react, like you say, on a particular kind of terrain, what your foot is going to do, what your ankle's going to do. You never get purely saved by just a pair of shoes or boots. And again, looking at your own personal biomechanics, I suppose, is important. When we're talking about shoes and footwear, but starting to use this whole 20-week program to get to know yourself better, your body and how it reacts in certain situations and how flexible it is. We did training on Wednesday, and we'd done the kind of shuttle runs. We'd done 4 minutes pace 3, and then come back with 90 seconds pace 1. We'd done it 5 times, so it was about a 30-minute sort of session. But at the end of that, one of our walkers, she got quite a sort of not serious but kind of achy pain up the front of her shin, almost like a kind of shin splinty type thing. So we looked at her dorsiflexion of her foot up towards the shin, and she wasn't able to move it that far. So clearly there's an amount of, again, everyone's individual and everyone might have a different level of flexibility, but to me it seemed that was not flexible enough. And there are simple things, and I posted a video in the group today where you can kind of just push your knee towards the wall as you've got your toe against the door frame, for example, and you're testing the angle of movement of that dorsiflexion of your foot, which is what happens when you're going up and down slopes. And if it is tight, then start to mobilize that. Maybe get the back of your calves massaged by a massage therapist. Maybe do those mobilizations and stretches, get more flexibility both in your ankles and in your hips, and that will give you better ability to sort of deal with the terrain, and that might influence how you operate with the footwear. So all of those things are important, but a lot of great comments today from you guys about footwear. I haven't seen, because I can't see because we're on Zoom. I'm just going to check. We've had a couple of comments just saying hello from Jill and Leslie. So if they're still watching, then hello, they're a couple of our local walkers. No one's put any questions in, but people may watch this video back on playback, and if you're watching it to the end and you're hearing this, then if you've got any questions, come back to me, comment on the post where you see the video, and either I will respond or one of the guys here will respond and try and answer your questions. But as we move forward through the weeks, I think it might be interesting to revisit a little bit of the topic of socks and footwear, as we've maybe got to a stage where we're doing those kind of 15-kilometer walks. At the minute, we're still kind of shortish distance, but certainly it is different as you get past that 15 kilometers to 20 kilometers to 25 kilometers. That's where you start to really notice that thing. And because a lot of us do the Nordic walking and the walks, we have those regular hour-long sessions each week. We get familiar with being quite conditioned and fit and used to our footwear, but really we've molded ourselves into that hour to hour and a half sort of time frame. So it'll be interesting for everyone who's watching and considering participating to kind of get those extra steps in, extra miles, and how they then feel with that footwear on in those particular circumstances. Anyone got any other final comments or questions or anything? We've been on about 30 minutes, so 25 minutes, so well done.
And just on the subject of feet and shin splints, I mean, after every walk, I tend to do a series after a walk, be it an ordinary walk or a pace walk or an endurance walk of whatever it is, or even a run. I tend to do a series of foot, I want to say mobilization is the beginning, but I tend to do a series of foot stretches and activation after the walk, of which there of the feet and my ankle. I'm not going to go into them in detail now, but one of the ones that stretches out the front of the foot is to kneel down with my feet, front of my feet on the carpet, and then lean back. And it's amazing how the foot, you feel the feet tighten up and then they unstretch themselves as you lean back. Tend to lean back for 20 seconds, 25, 30 seconds, never any longer. But that's really helped me.
Excellent. We may come back to you, Ron, on that, and we'll do a little bit of a sharing of tips on that kind of thing. You know,
the Achilles as well. On the kettlebell, I do the calf and the Achilles on a kettlebell as well, stretching them out. Okay.
We'll come back to you on that and maybe show and share. Anything else, Colin?
No. Did you understand what I was saying about the way of tying up the laces? Did that make sense? Or was it just sort of over the top of the head?
I'm going to come back to you again on that, Colin, because I think there's different ways I've seen of actually lacing shoes.
Yeah, it's something that I've experimented a lot, because you know when you tie up a boot, usually the last loops that you tighten are at the top. And often what I've found anyway happens is that when you've done it that way, the top loosens and your ankle and your top of your leg is moving around the top of the boot. But if you, instead of threading them, you thread them normally as you come up. But once you get to this one, which is sort of 2 down from the top, I then go straight to the top. And then I come back down to the one that's second from the top.
Okay.
And so you tighten them across, you're effectively tightening them across the boot at a lower level.
But you're still holding it in place at the top.
Yeah. So the top then stays, the top of your boot stays more neatly around your leg for much longer.
Yeah.
And you're tightening it across this part of the boot.
Yeah, interesting.
And I found that lasts the whole of the walk. Otherwise, what's ending up is I'm finding the boot is loosening and I'm having to stop and tie them up again. Okay. And you're not getting a uniform support. So I don't know if that's just me being odd or whether anyone else is pride.
Yeah, we know you're a bit odd, Colin, but don't worry about that.
You get really anal, about all these sort of things, but at the end of the day,
it's all good quality help and advice to all of our viewers, so thank you. Tracy, anything, last comments, questions?
Yeah, I don't know, Matt, if you're going to do something on foot health in general, but I would recommend people, as they go through their training and come towards the event, that they actually see a chiropodist or podiatrist to take a look at their feet, trim nails, get rid of any hard skin, etc., because you can get blisters under hard skin, which is really, really difficult then to deal with. So that is definitely a recommendation, and it's worth spending that little bit of money just for a couple of sessions before the event, or as you increase your training. So that's another top tip. But if you're going to do a separate one on foot health, then you might well cover that.
Yeah, well, I may come back to you on that, Tracy. Thank you. Ashley, I see you muted, but come back in.
Yeah, no, just a lot of background noise going on.
Yeah, that's
here
okay.
With family coming home. I would say, I would agree with Tracy. I was going to say always cut your toenails kind of like at least a few days before, because that can just, you forget to do that, and that's caused me issues before. And just, obviously we're gonna keep training. We're gonna do all the foot health. Just enjoy yourselves, really. Just, build it up gradually. And it is really fantastic when it's such an amazing achievement when you do it. It feels really good. So yeah, but just prepare for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've mentioned
I think everyone's covered everything else. So yeah.
We've mentioned in a previous video, it's about everyone interacting with the training program, watching the content, the example today about footwear, the other stuff we'll have on socks and other kinds of content. As you build yourself up over the 20 weeks, you can basically get to the day of the event, and it should become not a dream, but a really exciting adventure to go on it, because you know that you'll have your footwear in place, nothing going to go wrong with your feet and your socks and anything else like that. You've got more supple, you've done your training, you feel fit, you feel ready to do that distance. It takes away the things in your mind, the worry, the effort of, can I do this? Will I manage to do this? You know that you're confident, you've trained and you've prepared yourself. And that's why we've got this program over the 20 weeks to get people ready for entering and getting to the end and getting the medal, and not going home in bits and pieces and unhappy that they didn't get to complete the event. So thank you very much, you guys.
I've got someone coming to say hello.
Different dog feeding.
This one said just do it.
Trying. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye from Lola.